Hi, I'm Mirian Vilela. I'm the Executive Director of the Earth Charter International Secretariat that it's based in Costa Rica. We are here today to talk with David Korten, to hear a little bit from him on his thoughts regarding the current crisis that we are living, the ethical, the financial crisis, and the environmental crisis, and to hear a little bit more about his thoughts on the books that he has been writing on the great turning from the empire to the earth community and the new economy. So you have been writing and talking about the need for humanity to go through this transition towards a new paradigm. And in that you have been bringing up the notion of empire and earth community, to move from a society that's based on an empire to a society that is based on the community. Could you elaborate a little bit on what do you mean by each one of them, earth community and empire?
Of course, the term earth community comes from the Earth Charter, which says in the beginning of the preamble that essentially the time has come when we humans must choose our future. And the way I think about it is it is a choice between continuing on the way of empire, which is a system of organization of human affairs based on a model of domination. A system with a few people on the top and most people on the bottom. And that has played out over 5,000 years in relations between nations all the way down through society to the relations between family members. And the Earth Charter is saying that that model has put us on a path of self-destruction. And it's now time we have to choose to fundamentally reorganize our institutions based on very different values to create a world of earth community, or a community of life in which we humans are living in balance with one another and in a balanced creative relationship with the living earth, which is our home.
Okay, that's good. So what do you think it would take to make that transition happen? What is necessary to really help us as humanity shift our mindset from an empire humanity, humanity that is based on empire, the notion of this dominant power, to a humanity that is really working with a different framework? What does it take? It's going to be required for us to change our mindset?
Well, it requires changes at all levels. Foundational is the change in our values and the framing values of the society. I think of it in a very simple terms as a distinction between a society driven by a love of money, which is really a love of power, and a love of life. And that is kind of the crux of the choice that we have to make. Now, that leads to a recognition of very fundamental changes in our almost every one of our institutions. What I've come to see with great clarity, particularly as a consequence of the financial crisis and the meltdown of Wall Street, is that the Wall Street money institutions, which are driven by only one value, money, and only one purpose, which is basically to make as much money as possible for the managers of the Wall Street financial institutions. And that system has become, to use a computer analogy, the operating system of the society. It essentially controls everything else. It controls our government. It creates a form of democracy that's based on $1, one vote, rather than one person, one vote. And it results in organizing the priorities of society, the way we use our resources, the way we use people, all essentially to make money for Wall Street billionaires, to put it very bluntly. And the key to the change is recognizing that, well, first of all, we have to reawaken our sense of what it means to be human. That we humans are, I think, as we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And our whole being, properly understood, is that we exist as a part of the larger web of life. we have a distinctive characteristic of having a reflective consciousness, which means we are aware of our consciousness, and it gives us a capacity for choice way beyond any other species. But in line with the learnings of the new biology, which tell us that the most successful species are not the most brutal and competitive, but rather the ones that find their place of service to the whole, we as humans must now find our place of service to the whole of life. And that is crucial to our future survival. But that means awakening to our true nature, to our place in the cosmos and within the living family of Earth, and learning to respect, to cooperate, which is, again, as we come to have a deeper understanding of our human nature, those are the characteristics of the mature human psyche. And we need to be bringing those forward as we learn to live in cooperative relationship. And that's the challenge before us. But it also means fundamentally restructuring all of our institutions, which are designed to maintain the system of domination, maintain the power of those on top, to move to institutions of community that are truly deeply democratic, and that lead us to a mode of sharing Earth's resources rather than trying to individually accumulate as much as possible of what is ultimately a finite Earth.
So leadership is not going to come from the dominant powers. Leadership must come from people. I think that you have mentioned that at some point. How do you think this is going to emerge?
Yeah, it's pretty self-evident when you think about it. The leadership for change to eliminate a dominator system is very unlikely to come from the people in power, who are the people who enjoy that special privilege, and in fact whose power, whose place in society depends on maintaining the institutions of domination, which means that the leadership has to come from grassroots movements, from the community, from citizens. And that, of course, is part of what's so special about the Earth Charter. When we have intergovernmental agreements, these are negotiated by people who are negotiating for comparative positions of power. When people came together, ordinary people, to write the Earth Charter, they were acting from the perspective of a human community, and the values, the institutions, the purposes that reflect the deeper potentials of our humanity. So they were talking about framing the world in which we all want to live. I mean, that to me is the real power of the Earth Charter. It is a kind of a consensus statement of people acting from their position as citizens, as inhabitants of a living planet, part of the human and life family, articulating the world that they really want. And that, of course, is what's so stunning, is when you bring together people from all the diversity of the world's religions and races, nationalities, cultures, and so forth. At the foundation, they really want the same thing. They want a world that works for everyone. They want a world that supports healthy, happy children, that supports strong families and caring communities, and a healthy, vital environment. And once you begin to recognize that as the common human aspiration, you say, wow, well, why don't we just get together and create that world? And that is what the Earth Charter calls us to do.